Now, one thing that I often am asked during the planning process is, what are some of the common mistakes that people make when they're planning or when they're implementing a plan? Well, let me walk you through very briefly the 5 fatal mistakes of planning. Mistake number 1 is skipping that metaplanning cycle, or that rigorous analysis that needs to occur up front before the planning cycle begins. This allows you to really understand the landscape that you're dealing with during the planning cycle. So if you skip rigorous analysis before and during the planning process, you might be fooling yourself. So we need to be honest with ourselves about whether or not our strategies and our objectives are achievable and realistic, whether we can do it within the time frame that we have laid out. So use that analysis and that process of analysis to make sure that you're being honest with yourself. Now, fatal mistake number 2 is believing that a plan can be built in a day. I see this a lot, where a client might schedule an offsite and we go into a conference room at 9 a.m. and there's an expectation that we will have a full and complete and robust plan by 5 or 6 p.m. that afternoon. Now, for a really simple plan, that might be the case, but often you'll find during the planning process that there are other people that you need to be involved. There is other data that you need to look at. There are things that you need to consider. There are people that you need to get involved. So the planning process, number 1, can't realistically, in many cases, be completed in a day. And this is very critical, as the plan evolves and unfolds in execution, you might find yourself iterating or evolving that plan throughout the period of time that you're executing. So don't fall prey to that second fatal mistake, believing a plan can be built in a day. Our third fatal mistake is something I've already referred to, and that is failing to link your plan with execution as a plan of record. So what I often tell, and this is particularly true for sales and marketing teams, make sure that your plan is essentially your roadmap for the year. Make sure it's your plan of record. So don't just make it an academic exercise. It could be intellectually interesting and you might uncover some useful insights. But more importantly, turn this into a plan of record that everyone who's involved in the execution process can look at and use as a touchstone to say, are we executing against the plan successfully or not? And then this plan of record can be your roadmap, your set of milestones that keeps you on track throughout the period of time, whether that's a quarter or a year. Fatal mistake number 4 is dodging plan reviews. Now, sometimes these are in business known as quarterly business reviews, or some people have semi-annual business reviews, where they'll bring the plan back out and they'll look at it and they'll ask the question, are we executing sufficiently and effectively against the plan? So dodging those sorts of reviews is a mistake, because that's your opportunity, again, to evaluate whether or not you have used the plan as a plan of record, whether it's been realistic, whether you're being effective, whether you're achieving your goals, and very importantly, to get some coaching and get some additional insight from managers or executives who might be outside of the day-to-day activity that you're involved in. They just might have some answers for you, some ideas for you on how to be more effective in strengthening your plan and executing more effectively against that plan. And finally, fatal mistake number 5 is not establishing a process to what I call course correct as you execute the plan. You saw that famous quote from Napoleon Bonaparte that no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. Well, guess what? No business plan survives first contact with the customer. Things change. The market changes, the economy changes, the competitive landscape is always changing. So you need to have a process to not only establish reviews to ensure that you're on track against your plan, but as things change, your plan needs to evolve. And so make sure that you have that process and what I call tripwires, so that as things do change, you become aware of those changes and you can reinvent the plan and implement new parts of the plan, so that at the end of whatever period you're planning for, and let's say it might be a year, that you've been able to evolve that plan and to successfully execute a measurable outcome, a positive business outcome as a result of your plan.